This Detroit News Podcast is brought to you by Varsity Ford of Ann Arbor.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to Gritiron Gang, a Detroit News Lions podcast. We are live from Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland, after a 44-22 Detroit Lions victory over the Washington Commanders. A pretty flawless performance from this Lions offense after one of their worst performances in recent memory last week against the Vikings. And Dan Campbell taking over play calling duties. They go 8 for 8 scoring drives. Third down was efficient. They put up a season-high 500 and something yards of offense. The number is escaping me right now, but everything is right in Lions land again. And to quote or paraphrase, I should say, Graham Glasgow in the locker room, the Lions are good again.
Yeah, the Lions are good again. John, I'll give you the table first.
The first clue that something was different today was this. This is a prop. But,
okay.
So
go watch on YouTube.
Dan Campbell. Oh, yeah, this is audio, visual. Yeah. Now, Dan Campbell had his readers on today on the sideline. He had the play sheet. He always says the play sheet, but he was calling the plays with his eyesight is bad, he says. No, it was a huge – this was a change you kind of felt like might be coming. Mm-hmm. There was enough frustration. Obviously, the offense had been sluggish here for a while now. Just seemed to be a disconnect with what we know they're capable of and what we were seeing. And, Dan Campbell, of all of his traits – the most important one is the feel he has for this team and what it needs. And he talked about that after the game today. Like, he just felt this is something that he needed to do because, he's got this picture of what he wants in his head, and he understands that it's hard to follow through on that vision for other people. So this was a decision that had to be made. He made it, and obviously it worked wonders today.
I mean, I think you're exactly right. That is obviously the story and of all right. stories so far this season. I thought Graham Glasgow said it best in the locker room. He got asked, what gives the team confidence that when Dan makes these decisions, whether it be calling plays or just these pivotal decisions in the season, what makes you confident that that is the right answer? And he led with a joke in classic Graham Glasgow fashion. And he says, well, he looks really big and strong, so if he's making the decisions, he's probably right.
That's right.
But then he goes, all jokes aside, I think he's a football guy. And I feel like he has a good finger on the pulse for what we need to do. He's a great coach. And I thought, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I thought that was what we heard from a lot of Lions players who we asked about him calling plays. And, when we all talked over the offseason, I mean, you and I did how many podcasts, just what might this team look like? Why should we believe that Dan Campbell is going to be fine without Ben Johnson? And it's because he's done it before. And he did exactly what he did this week before. And I think that was kind of like – the back in 2021 when Anthony Lynn was his play caller, things weren't working. Things were really, really bad. People were calling for Campbell's job. They were 0-8, and he makes the tough decision to go to his longtime, friend, colleague, and say, I got to take over play calling duties. And usually, sometimes in the NFL, like that tends to be like a bit of a joke that things are going wrong. And it was obviously a result of things going wrong, but I think him taking over the play calling duties twice has been a sign that things are generally going right, and as backward as it is, but it's just a sign that he is willing to make the decisions that need to be made for this football team to get the most out of itself. And I think that ties back to his experience as a player. I think he really thinks I can't let my guys down. I can't let ego, whether it be his, whether it be John Morton's, whether it be whoever's, I can't let ego let those guys down. Right. And I think that's what you kind of saw tonight.
Nolan gets credit for, unfortunately, talking the last few months about how, why are we confident in these hires? Because Dan Campbell's making them. And on the rare occasions where Dan Campbell hire has not worked, he's willing to pull the plug. We saw a similar thing in 2022. He does it around the same time this year. And Nolan talked about that a few months ago, yada, 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 blah, blah.
The other part of this too is obviously there's just a relationship there between Campbell and John Morton. They go back way back. Obviously, he's worked here with the Lions in a previous stint, know each other from the Saints, Sean Payton, all that. So that was a tough conversation that they had after the Vikings game. You can tell Campbell's been mulling this for a while in the way he talked about it afterwards. But it was a tough call. But, as he has said more than once, John Morton's all about the team. I mean, he's a grinder. He's a worker. He's a guy who's going to do whatever it takes. And there's a whole lot of people on this staff like that. But I think the issue, John Morton's still really involved in the passing game and was, from the booth today in the play calling in terms of what they were doing. But yeah, there was an issue, and there was a disconnect between what we know is they're capable of, particularly in the run game. It just didn't seem like there was a rhythm, a flow to the way these games were being called and the way they were being played by this Lions offense. And you saw it today. I mean, whether it's Jahmyr Gibbs on that first drive, I don't know, it's like 40 plus yards he accounted for on that first drive. But just in general, the rhythm was finally there again. Again, the Commanders are a kind of a wreck right now.
Stinky Commanders.
With all the injuries they've had, and these losses are piling up. This 4 straight, like 3-score losses for them, basically. So this, keep that in mind as they're heading to Philly. This play calling may not look so great, 7 days from now, but no, the rhythm that we've seen glimpses of, but saw all of last year, was back today. It sure was.
For 44 years, Varsity Ford in Ann Arbor has been more than just a dealership. We're a family, proudly serving yours. As one of the top volume Ford dealers in the world, we're proof that when you treat people right, they come back, generation after generation. And now we make it easier than ever with complimentary pickup and delivery for both sales and service. So you can buy or service your Ford without leaving home. Varsity Ford, driven by family, built on tradition.
And I thought, like, the stats obviously tell the story, and we'll get to some of that in a second.
Yeah,
but
like
I thought
Jack Fox not punting.
yeah, that's a big part of it. Jared Goff, 25 for 33, 320 yards, 9.7 yards per attempt or catch. I'm looking at.
I believe attempt.
Okay, yards per attempt, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, passer rating of 135.9. Jahmyr Gibbs, we just talked about the running game, 15 carries, 142 yards, long of 43, 2 touchdowns, plus a receiving touchdown. And David Montgomery, 15 rushes, 71 yards, 4.7 a carry with a long of 12. And then Jameson Williams getting involved too, 6 catches, 119 yards. I think out of anybody, obviously Gibbs, because the run game has been inefficient for most of the season, but I think of anybody who this benefits, this play calling switch, one, the offensive line, but skill position wise, it's got to be Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams had more catches, 5, in the third quarter of today's outing than he did in 7 of his first 8 full games this year. Only one game had he had more catches than 5, and I think it was, I don't even remember the Chiefs game, maybe I think it was, and he had 6, I want to say. I believe that's right. He ate him up over the middle of the field. That one drive, they just spammed the Jameson Williams button, and it worked. Yeah. The touchdown he scored actually was kind of similar to the one that he scored in Kansas City. You brought up Gibbs. I thought Gibbs showed, once again, why he's special. All 3 of his touchdowns were a little bit something different. The route running on the first one with the Texas route. The second one where he gets hit 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, makes the guy miss, and then scores a 13-yard touchdown while staying upright. We've seen this over and over again with David Montgomery, where he gets upright in these piles, and then everyone comes running over and pushes him over the goal line. Jahmyr Gibbs does it this time, and then the 44-yard touchdown, the patented Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm faster than you run. I thought he was really special today.
So where do we go from here? It sounds like this is here to stay. Dan Campbell calling the plays. He feels like, admittedly, he said Goff bailed me out of some things tonight. It was a little, there was a couple times you could tell he was just trying to get the play call in before the communication cuts off, and he probably didn't finish calling the play. So I think there will be some growing pains, but I think this is here to stay. I don't think we're looking at some dramatic fallout from this internally.
Well, and I did want to talk about that too, because I have actually had some people already like reaching out to me about like, ooh, is this like bad? Is this gonna I don't really think so. Like with all the respect in the world to John Morton, I think he's kind of used to being a behind the scenes guy. This was one of his first seasons where he was kind of out in the open, and I think that ultimately,
and Goff talked about it, after the game tonight too, about he's just an egoless guy in terms of, and so that's why he gives him credit for the way he handled it this week. So did Dan Campbell, and we'll talk to John Morton this week, and he'll have his say about what this means for him and this team. But I don't think it's an issue. I think the issue is they got their mojo back. The offensive line, we saw it had a couple
zero negative
plays, no
sacks, tackles
no
for
negative
loss,
runs, no whatever. We actually had some jumbling of the offensive line. Penei Sewell goes out briefly, and Graham Glasgow goes out briefly, but they both came back and finished the game. So you feel like this line is back, to feeling good about itself as well, banged up as they are. And so, now they head to Philly for a real test on prime time to see kind of where they're at.
And I expect them to be ready. Like this is, I think this is a team that will be playing with a lot of confidence coming off a game like this. And I honestly think, I wonder how the players felt during that whole first 8 weeks of the season, because it was just clear to anybody who was watching it that they just didn't look right. They were disjointed.
They didn't look like it. And then this past week, you started to hear more of that frustration. I mean, you just, there was just, sort of conflicting answers to the same questions all week, whether it's coaches, players. And you just, the frustration was starting to build a little bit because they weren't, this isn't what they're capable of.
Yeah. I'm happy you brought that up because I was going to say that we did, talking to Graham Glasgow in the locker room this week, talking to Taylor Decker. It wasn't, and this isn't to just dunk and poo-poo on John Morton episode, but they did obviously talk about, we felt like we were out schemed against Minnesota, and then John Morton went to the podium and said, I thought the scheme was fine, and players got beat. Paraphrasing, but that's the gist of what each side said. And I almost like this week, because, it's so easy to pile on a coordinator across the NFL. Like whenever it's one side of the ball isn't working, it's like, oh, it's this guy, get rid of him. Right. So I'm like, man, are we, and by we, I mean the collective of viewers, from media to fans to reporters or whatever of the lines. I'm like, are we doing that here? And the fact that Campbell did make the switch today made me feel better in the sense of it confirmed okay, I'm not crazy. I am reading the situation properly. And I think, most observers, like I said, fans, what have you, of the Lions, were reading it that way as well.
Yeah. Now it's up to them to prove that this wasn't just a one-off, and it wasn't just because they're playing the Commanders, that it's, lit a fire under them too, having Dan Campbell back, calling plays again. He wants to call play. I mean,
I'm kind of confused why he didn't just do it from the onset.
And I think you talked about that again tonight too. Look, it's a lot. I think he probably feels better doing it now halfway through the season because he knows the defense is more than cooking right now with Kelvin Shepherd calling the play. He doesn't feel like he needs to be present necessarily as much as he might have thought he would in a first-year play caller on defense. I think he's comfortable with where everything else is at. He just needed to fix his offense.
We are getting booted from the Northwest Stadium by the employees here, but we should run through the defense real quick. It wasn't a perfect game. The defense gave up obviously 22 points to Marcus Mariota-led offense. Special teams had its moment as well. Commanders' first points came after a big return, and then Jake Bates had an extra point block later in the game. But Marcus Mariota was pretty good today. Quite honestly, he was 16 for 22 for 213 yards, 9.7 yards per attempt, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and a passer rating of 133.3. So that's pretty good. The run defense, though, that got back on track in a big way.
Yeah, run defense. I thought the biggest poor thing for the defense was the explosive plays. I think it was 7 catches allowed of 10-plus yards and another 3, well, not another 3, including 3 of 30-plus. We saw Jalen Lane get a 41-yarder. The guy from the former Titans receiver, Traylon Burks, got a stretch, got a big play. But I thought that was the issue. Do you want to run through the injuries, Kirk, and then we'll get out of here?
Yeah. Terran Arnold, concussion, Glasgow, Panay, we already mentioned, they finished the game. All good to go. Unfortunate turn of events for Terran, who was, I thought, obviously coming off one of his best games as a pro, and I think was having an even better game this week before he got hurt.
Yeah, and you would think he'd be back, but it's a big week. It's also a week where they've got a little extra. They're traveling, obviously, tonight, but their opponent is playing on Monday night. So
there we go.
That's a bonus for the Lions heading into Philly.
All right, DetroitNews.com. We got a whole bunch of stories going up, bunch of stories coming out over the next few days. We'll see you back here on Thursday morning. Same time, same place.